Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Jonesboro, how are you today? Today is Thursday, November the 3rd, 2016, and this is your host for the day, Abigail Harden, and my special guest is Mr. Mark West. How are you?
I'm doing great.
And he is a Libertarian candidate running for U.S. Congress, House of Representatives, District 1, Arkansas.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. I just want to let you know that we are live on Facebook and YouTube, and the phone lines are open, 870-277-1080. So if you have any questions, comments, please call in. And I'll be checking Facebook often to see if there are any comments on there. Okay. And before we get started, I have to give this disclaimer. The Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council and KLEK does not support or endorse any candidate. No compensation was given for this interview. This interview is strictly for educational, informational purposes only. So we got that out of the way. So let's get started. So, Mr. West, can you please give the listeners and viewers a little bit of background about yourself?
Yes, I'm a Southern Baptist pastor. I've been one for 15 years. I've lived my entire life in District 1, which is the eastern part of Arkansas and north central Arkansas.
Okay.
I was born and raised in West Memphis. Graduated from high school in 94, went to Arkansas State University here in Jonesboro. That's where I achieved my degree in broadcasting. Met my wife there, and we've been married. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary last week. We have 3 children. My oldest, Matthew, is 15. My middle child, Caleb, is 12, and my daughter, Micaiah, is 10.
Okay.
We live in Batesville. I pastor a church in Old Trough, but I also run the corporate office for a multi-state construction company. We do work on power plants and steel mills, paper mills, heavy industrial type construction, and I handle all the regulatory aspects, taxation, all the fun accounting and costing and all that fun stuff once it all gets in. So.
Well, that leads into the next question, which I'm sure you get asked a lot. What made you decide to run for Congress?
Well, part of the run was looking at where the country is right now.
Okay.
I'm a big believer that the country we live in, we want to leave it better for the next generation. And with my 3 children, I don't see it as very responsible of me to sit on the sidelines while our country is, next year's budget will be $20 trillion in debt. Where we have a national atmosphere where we've lost our community as a culture, where we have become such a mean culture, and to have a general mindset in the country where we're just stuck, we feel like we're stuck where we are and we can't advance anymore and we can't be great anymore, and I believe that we can. And the other thing I try to impress on my kids, and is part of the reason I'm running, is don't back down. Something may seem like it's way too big. I work 70 hours a week between pastoring and my job, and adding a political campaign is just like, where does the time come from? And I steal it from my sleep for right now, but I want my kids to see that if there's a chance or an opportunity out there, to not be afraid to take it, to not be afraid to step out and stand up for the things that you believe in. And I believe that America is a great country and it can only get greater. But it's going to take all of us putting our commitment into rebuilding our communities and rebuilding our relationships, and slowly but surely rebuilding the country, rebuilding the economy, and getting things back on track and going in a direction that's going to benefit most Americans.
Okay. All right, so let's get right into some of the platforms, the issues that you feel very passionate about. We were talking a little bit before the show started, and I'm interested in you sharing with the rest of the people, the listeners out there, the issues that you stand for, the things that you're passionate about, things that you would love to see changed within the country. So let's get into the first one. We talked a lot about small businesses or businesses in general, how I don't know, the atmosphere, things have changed. It's harder for small businesses to thrive in this economy. And we did go through a really big economic downfall for a while. Some people almost equated to the Great Depression, but it wasn't quite that bad. But we're starting to see some pickup. But from your perspective, what else can you see that needs to be changed?
Well, you talk about this, that they debate on what to call this economic downturn, whether to call it the Great Recession or, what great, bleak, awful word to use to describe it. And I think we need to get past trying to describe it and understand why it happened.
Okay.
We had this massive, the only way to think of it is a bubble, but we had a bunch of bubbles,
okay.
And they started in the financial community, and we saw it in the auto industry, and we saw this series of bubbles that were all created by government intrusion into the market,
okay.
Where the market was flowing, it was working, the small businesses were creating jobs, everything was churning, and then suddenly a problem would develop, and the government would try to step in to fix the problem, and what they would do is, they may address that problem in part, but they would create 5 or 6 other problems in the process. And rather than look at the regulation and say, well, maybe there's a problem with that regulation, they say, well, no, we just need to add more regulation to that to fix the other 5 or 6 problems, and then a little bit more regulation to fix the next set of problems. Like one of the things you can talk about is healthcare. They're talking about Obamacare has been big in the news because the ACA, it's going up. The rates are going up. ACA came into being because the government intruded into the healthcare market and created a bubble. Wow. And that bubble made it where people couldn't access healthcare, or it was unaffordable to access healthcare. So what we hear, we hear the Republicans on their side saying, well, we just need to repeal Obamacare and start over, and then the Democrats on the other side, well, we need to fix what's wrong with Obamacare. So either way, you're hearing more regulation. Mm-hmm. And what I'm saying is, hey, let's look at the situation that created the need for ACA.
Okay.
And let's fix the problem that was there to begin with, the cost problem. Yeah. The cost problem created the access problem. And the cost problem was built because our government allowed so many monopolizations in the healthcare market, whether it was the drug industry, whether it was the way care was given. And those costs created a lack of access. Okay. And that happened because the government got involved in the market trying to fix this problem or that problem and created more problems. So we made more regulation to create more problems. Well, that is what's happened with small businesses. Okay. We have in small businesses, great, tremendous opportunities. There are a lot of entrepreneurs and people full of ingenuity in our economy that would love to start businesses and love to provide services to our communities that our communities need. Yes. But when they look at the regulatory atmosphere, they look at how much it's going to cost, how much struggle and effort is going to be involved in even trying to get one started. We don't all get $2 million from daddy to start a business. Most of us have to come out with that out of pocket, or we've got to go to the bank and ask for a loan to get a business started. And all of that is in place because there's this regulatory atmosphere right now that is strangling small businesses, and it's making it where they can't hire. There's a lot of small businesses that just can't hire anybody right now. There are others that would like to pay their employees more, but because of the regulation, they have to pay for this, that, and the other, for all this other stuff, regulatory-wise, that they could be pouring that money into their employees, and they can't. So, and what's unfortunate is when we watch the news, we hear the big corporations. We always hear, well, we got to stop the corporations. We got to make them do a profit share. We got to make them. Well, that's great, but the problem is when that regulation comes to Congress, those corporations also make enough money to buy lawyers and accountants to make sure that those regulations don't hit them. And where do they go? They hit small businesses. So the small business part of the economy, the middle class part of the economy, is struggling, and it's stagnant, and it's because there's so much government intervention in that market, and it's holding it down. So what I would like to do is go to Congress and begin looking at those regulations and saying, hey, is this really doing what we thought it was going to do? If it's not, let's get it out of the way, because it's killing small business. And if we can do those things, we can open these small businesses up, we can free them up to hire more people, to pay their people more, and it will create an avenue for, again, the ingenuity and the entrepreneurship among people in the middle class, where we'll see more small businesses start. We'll see more job opportunity in the economy, and that's what I think we need to work for.
You know, like we talked also off air, I know a lot of people that have a lot of ideas. I know people that can, if they had the opportunity right now, they could have their own catering company, or they can have their own, say, t-shirt business, or, you know, gift little trinkets type business. But again, because of all the different things that are in place that hold people down, they just cannot afford to even get started in the game. They just cannot even afford the risk and the loss that may come along with it. So, and all the regulations and red tape and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna pray that things get better soon, very soon. So okay, so let's move on to another topic. On your website, you mentioned government out of business, but then business out of government.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes, ma'am.
So explain that one for me a little bit.
Yes, I've talked about getting the government out of business, but you also have to get the business out of government. I talked about the big corporations.
Okay.
Well, you have these special interests and these lobbyists right now that have undue influence on Congress. The congressman I'm running against has raised $3.2 million in 6 years. And every member of Congress, if you look, they're all raising massive amounts of money, and they're getting large portions of that money they're raising is coming from these special interests, from these lobbyists, from these PACs, all these things that are influencing Washington. And then they come home and they say, well, no, I'm fighting for you. And I'm like, I don't really believe you're fighting for us. I believe that if a bill comes before you and you got to choose these donors over us, you're going to choose those donors because your party needs that money. That's how your party runs these campaigns all over the country and puts these ads on TV and convinces people that you're for us when really you're not. You're really for those corporate special interests. You're for that. And so much legislation that comes out of Washington proves that. In our district specifically, we have the Farm Bill. You hear about the Farm Bill all the time. There's all these farmers. It's a big agricultural area. District 1 is one of the biggest agricultural parts of the country.
Okay.
And, you hear about the Farm Bill, but when you get into the details of how the Farm Bill actually works out, the biggest beneficiaries are in Chicago. They're insurance companies, that are able to sell those farmers insurance and gouge them on it. But they're legally allowed to gouge them on it because that's the way the law's set up. And it sets up this system where the people that benefit aren't your small farmers don't get the benefit out of it that your big agricultural, your big corporations do. And the thing we have now is too many politicians in Washington are afraid to talk about the big corporations and the big influences in Washington because they don't want to lose that money. They don't want to lose that influence. And we need people that are going to go to Washington and say, hey, this is wrong. This doesn't benefit the people as a whole. Yeah, we need food security, but just because we need food security doesn't mean that I need to write a bill that makes sure everybody gets their food security through you, through Monsanto, or something else like that. These big agricultural corporations that are buying that influence and they're getting the biggest bulk of benefit from bills that come through Congress. So we need to end that relationship. And that's one of the things that I'm
So sorry.
That's okay. That is one of the things I'm committed to as elected. In my campaign, I've said I'm not taking corporate interests. I don't want donations from corporations. I don't want donations from special interests. I want individuals to donate to my campaign. The Bernie Sanders model. I can say that my donations have been like an average of $27 a donation. Because I've got regular people are putting into my campaign because I'm a regular guy. I'm working in this economy. I'm struggling in this economy just like everybody else in the middle class is, and I'd like to go to Washington and try to fix that and make it better for us so we can get ahead, so we can raise our families without having to worry every week about where's the money going to come from to pay the bills. Is my job still going to be there when I go to work? How am I going to keep a roof over the head, clothes on my back and my kids' backs, and food on the table? About that isolated.
Okay. As you were speaking, it reminds me of, I watch a lot of Turner Classic Movies, and I saw a clip for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and he had kind of that same idea. Something needs to change. It's kind of funny we look at old movies and the things that were talked about then, it still applies today. Something needs to change. They need to start looking out for the people, because we're the ones that are, in turn, we have the people have more power than they realize. They have a lot of more say so, but people just don't utilize it. They don't know where to start, where to go. And so hopefully with people like you, whoever else is in that position, hopefully you open the door to allow people to communicate with you, or whoever's in that position come November 8th. I'm hoping that the door's open so that there's more communication, people can express their needs, and then the congressperson can really work for the people. That's the bottom line.
Well, and part of it comes with the people realizing that they have that power. Like you said, we don't realize how much power we have. We watch TV and we're told that we have to be different. The Democrats have to hate the Republicans. Republicans have to hate the Democrats. We're told that blacks and whites can't get along, or that if you're an immigrant, you can't get along, or if you're a Muslim, you don't have a part, or, we have all these messages on TV. But what we need to understand is the only power we have is when we come together and when we stand together and say, you know what, I don't care what color your skin is. I don't care who your parents were, what your background was, what your past was. What I care about is right now you're an American citizen and you're willing to stand beside me and confront our government and tell them, hey, it's time to make things right. One of my favorite memes that I see on the internet, memes are everywhere these days.
Yes.
Now, one of my favorite memes is the one where the politician is at the podium on a plank off a cliff, and this plank stretches onto the cliff, and there's all these people standing on that plank holding him on that plank. And on the back of the meme, you see one guy step off that says, one of these days we'll realize our power comes when we start stepping off the plank.
Wow.
And you only realize that when you realize it together. We have to realize that we have to come together and say, you know what, the system's broke. It's not working for us. It's not working for America, and it's time for things to change.
That's right.
And we've got to get unified together and make that change happen. And it's going to start with us rebuilding our communities and reinvesting in the lives around us. reinvesting in friendships and relationships, rebuilding strong communities. Those communities are going to be the lifeblood that makes America, that continues to make America grow and be the great country that we are.
Okay. I've seen different, I saw a commercial ad video, and it was from a group of Canadians, and they were saying how much they love America and how great things already are, and they were highlighting the positives. I would love to see that grow even more. I admit I don't know as much as I should about how things work in Congress, but I'm learning every day. I'm learning, and I'm making myself learn more. And I would just really encourage any other citizen out there, and get to know who's running for you, get to know who's representing you, and get to know the issues that they stand for, and see if that lines up with your personal values, and try to make some changes anywhere you can. So we're speaking with Mr. Mark West. He is running for U.S. Congress House of Representatives District 1 for Arkansas, and he's a libertarian, which really doesn't, it says a lot, and I'm sorry we didn't get into this before, so let's back up a little bit.
Yes,
while
ma'am.
we still have some time left in this segment. We have about 2.5 minutes. Can you please explain some differences between the Libertarian Party, Democrat, and Republican parties?
Yes, what you have to do is you have to look at political thought on a spectrum.
Okay.
All right, but the spectrum's not just right and left. It's also up and down. And what I mean by that, up means more government authority, down means less government authority in your lives. When the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution, they wrote it as a limit, a check for the government, how far the government can go and get into your business. Libertarians say, you know what, it's time for the government to respect the limits that are there and stay out of people's private business, stay out of their private lives, stay out of churches, stay out of, what's going on in my home, and deal with, the things that it's laid out to deal with. Your Republicans and your Democrats both come from what would be an up perspective. They come from a perspective that says the government should be involved in all these areas of your life. They just go back and forth over what areas they should be in. For the Republicans, they believe that the government should be less involved in the corporate side of it, but should be more involved in your private business. And the Democrats are on the other side. They're like, well, the government shouldn't be as involved in your private business, but it should be more involved in corporations. So you have both these involved in this conflict, whereas the Libertarians on the bottom are saying, well, really the government needs to be out of your business and then out of your private business.
Okay.
If I'm married to my wife, I love her, I don't need the government to tell me that our relationship's valid. That's something that she and I validated with one another, and I don't need the government to tell me that that's that's a valid relationship. I don't need the government to tell me who I can associate with and who I can't associate with. Those are the things that libertarians fight ardently for, is for people to have their liberty back, for business to be able to do business and not, be hamstrung by all the regulations that keep them from being able to hire and pay people more and do those things. So that's your general difference, is just the role that government should have, and we think less government is more freedom for us.
Alrighty. Alrighty, so thank you for that, Mr. Mark. We're going to get ready to take a quick break, but remember, the phone lines are still open, 870-277-1080. You listen to Community Conversations, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Dads, is your daughter confident? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Our daughters are under attack. Everywhere they turn, culture is telling them that they aren't good enough. As fathers, we have an obligation to instill confidence along with humility into our daughters. So, here are some tips for raising daughters to be confident. First, truly listen to her. Listen more, lecture less. She needs to know she has your ear, that you really understand her, and that you are there for her. Second, tell her she's beautiful. Some reports suggest that only 2% of women think they're beautiful. Changing this mindset begins in your own home. Make sure your daughter knows she's beautiful inside and out. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
KLEK presents A Harvest of Spoken Word, Junior Edition, hosted by Quabila Harden, to be held Saturday, November 19th, 2016 at 6 p.m. Location, Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue. It is $12 with the meal included. This will be open mic, karaoke, dance, comedy, and etc. 18 and under to perform. This is a KLEK fundraiser.
Car Today, 3404 Stadium Boulevard in Jonesboro. Car Today is a buy here, pay here dealership offering Carfax certified pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models with service contracts and financing for most budgets. Inventory and more information is available at neacartoday.com or 870-931-4224.
Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue at the four-way stop between Highways 351 and 463, serving Jonesboro for over 5 years with a motto of, we cater them all, large or small, offers catering and rental space for parties, churches, offices, and fundraisers for holidays and all occasions. They also offer a full breakfast and lunch menu, open Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., 870-275-6239. Details at klekfm.org.
The New St. John Missionary Baptist Church Outreach Ministry conducts a Pack the Pantry event the first Sunday of every month. The New St. John Food Pantry helps feed the needy in the community. Each member is asked to bring a non-perishable food item of choice. Donations from the public are also accepted. The food pantry is available for those in need daily from 10 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church is located at 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro, and more information is available at 870-972-0859 or 870-317-1269.
Attention, attention. Rides to the polls to go vote are now being offered for early voting through Election Day. Rides will be offered from 9 o'clock a.m. to noon, 1 o'clock p.m. to 3 o'clock p.m., and 4 o'clock p.m. until the polls close each day. If you need a ride to the polls to go vote, you may call Eugene Holloway at 870-910-5386, Reverend Ted T. Taylor Sr. at 662-418-6502, New St. John Missionary Baptist Church at 870-932-6915, Lachey Robinson at 870-253-9218, or KLEK at 870-277-1080. If you don't get an answer, leave a voicemail and you will be called back. Again, rides to the polls are now being offered through Election Day. Exercise your right to vote now.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations. I'm your host for today, Quabila Harden, with my special guest, Mr. Mark West, who is running he's a Libertarian candidate for U.S. Congress House of Representatives, District 1, Arkansas. Okay, so we're going to continue with our conversation because I want to make sure that Mr. West gets in all of his points and we discuss all the issues that he's very passionate about. And so we were talking a little bit off air about where District 1 is, and it's basically the eastern counties of Arkansas, which many of you may know as the more rural side of Arkansas, and then a little bit, you said north central Arkansas. So I was telling him that I'm from Marianna, Lee County, and so I know a lot about what it's like to live in that rural area. It's a lot of farming. I grew up with a wheat field on one side, cotton field on another side, so I know all about what it's like in the farming district. So we're also talking about, okay, how can the Congress help these farmers? How can they make sure that people are getting what they need, the farmers are getting paid what they need, and the cycle of growth continues? So I'm going to let you have at it. And I know I'm not asking the question. I can see the question in my mind, but it's not coming out how I want it. So hopefully you get an understanding of what I'm trying to ask.
Right. And one of the things that a congressman can do and should do is be kind of an intercessor, I guess would be the way to put it. They should be working with those communities and getting into those communities and trying to find ways, working with local officials and those elected officials, whether it's mayors or city councils, town councils, whatever their government structure is. Work with them to try to get the infrastructure in place, because the people in those communities are going to be the ones that are best equipped and best to understand what the needs of that community are. Whether what we find in a lot of communities, especially when you get into the Delta area, is you have some educational problems. The education system there needs some help. You also need more educational opportunity. As far as training and those type of things. One of the interesting issues I've seen, and something I've talked about on the campaign, is our education has been more geared towards sending people to college. But a lot of the times, the best jobs for them, or the best jobs that they would be most equipped to do, aren't jobs that come through a college degree. They're jobs that come through certain types of training they can get in high school, where they could do like internships, or they could, work with farmers or work with small businesses or things of that nature in the local community to get the experience that they can't get. And that's one of those things, that's why minimum wage is such a fight. Minimum wage, in essence, makes it illegal to hire anybody for less than what the minimum wage is. And, there are some jobs that, you may need somebody just to come in and do some filing. Well, that's not really a minimum wage job. So what you wind up doing, the small business owner will just do that filing himself, because it's not worth it to pay minimum wage for somebody to come in. So the small business owner's like, well, I'll just add that to what I'm doing, and I'll just work more hours and do that instead of hiring. So what you can do is begin in high school, when these kids are still younger, getting them the opportunity to get in there, do that filing, get them to come in and do these certain items that they can't do. Volunteering and internships, those type of things are going to be great benefits to these kids, helping them get that real life experience, because then when you're working on the job, you begin to develop those soft skills as well, realizing how important it is to show up on time, to take your bath every day. If you're a guy, to make sure you shave your face every once in a while. Now, I don't practice it too much, but, learning those soft skills, so that when you get in the job place, you know how to talk to people, you know how to have a conversation with someone or talk to a customer about, what their need is. You learn how to be a better listener. Those soft skills will get developed as you have those type of internships where they're engaged in the community, and the congressman can kind of facilitate those if they'll get into those communities and deal with community leaders and see what opportunities are there. The other way a congressman can help is trying to get the regulatory structure out of the way to help some of these small farmers have more freedom as far as what they do with their product or what products they can grow. A lot of regulation or the way things are structured kind of prohibit that. So creating more freedom for the farmers, when they see, this year may be a good year for this crop instead of that crop, so they would have that flexibility. We need to make sure they have that flexibility and they're not bound by certain regulatory structures that keep them from that flexibility. So those are some roles that a congressman can play in helping in those communities.
Okay. And I would like to see, I know in Jonesboro, we have access to what they call farmers markets. It's usually in the summer, but I would like to see something more in the fall because there are fall harvests, vegetables and things that are harvested during this time of year. I would love to see it more also in those smaller communities. Also, again, being from the area, you have what they call sharecroppers, or you have, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I've just got y'all choked up today. I'm sorry.
There are people who they have gardens and then they share or sell, certain items. But I would like to see it be more, I hate to say free access, but reasonably priced, more affordable for the residents of that area, so they have access to fresher, higher quality foods versus more processed and high calorie foods, things that lead to other health issues. It seems like those counties get overlooked sometimes when it comes to quality health. And I'm sorry, I'm straying a little bit when it comes to health care and things of that nature, but everything ties in together.
Yes, it does.
So I don't know what you can do if you are elected as congressman of that area. I'm hoping that you can have some influence over helping to change and increase the quality of life for those residents in that area.
Right, and part of that again goes back to that regulatory structure that a lot of farmers have to pay X amount for seeds or X amount to get stuff in to make that quality food. And a lot of that is built in a contract structure, and that contract structure is kind of at war with your more impoverished communities. And again, your congressman can be kind of a facilitator, to create that role, to find ways to get good, inexpensive seed into the hands of farmers in those communities that will help them, have surpluses and things of that nature, so they can be more involved in like a farmer's market type setup where they can get that better quality food in. So those, again, it's all about engaging that community, bringing the community together. We've got to have communities brought together if anything's going to work properly and anybody's going to be taken care of. And again, that helps, with healthcare costs, because if you're getting better food, your body's going to be healthier. And you are what you eat, as the saying goes, and you're going to be healthier if you're getting healthier foods. So that's going to lower your healthcare costs. And so there should be that commitment there on the front end, dealing with food security, making sure the food supply we have is a good food supply and that we are able to get those quality foods into those communities. But it's going to take interceding and getting involved in some more community-focused ways that aren't necessarily, hey, I'm going to make a top-down decree from Washington that this is what we're going to do, but something that says I'm going to talk to the mayor, I'm going to talk to some of these farmers and say, well, what can you do? What can if I can get something to you, what can you do with it to turn around and help the community?
Okay. Sometimes I wish I still lived down there because I would love to have more influence with city council, local government, so that we could communicate with the national government. So Okay, I'm going to move on and get off my soapbox on that one. Let's get into another issue that was on your website. Fight for the minority of the individual. And I think we've kind of touched on that a little with some of the other discussion, but let's get more specific on your thoughts on that.
Sure. The minority of the individual is the greatest minority in America. If we're willing to let one person get trampled on, allow one person's rights to be stepped on by the government, then we're putting all of our rights at risk. Okay. And and it's real easy when we look and we see somebody expressing their rights in a way that we don't agree with. Okay. Like in a lot of your Christian communities, when they see a gay pride march, it's everybody's up in arms. Oh, how can they do that? Or Colin Kaepernick, kneeling, during the national anthem, and everybody's up in arms. How can you do that? How dare he? But we've got to respect that right. As much as we may disagree with, what they're doing or why they're expressing that right, we need to understand as Americans, we're stronger because they have that right.
That's right.
When they don't have the right to do that, we're weaker. That's when we become more this authoritarian type government where you can't really question government and you can't question the way things are. And I don't want that. I want this to be a country where, hey, if something's bothering you and you need to speak out, that you can speak out however you need to speak out. The libertarian philosophy is based on what's called the NAP, or the non-aggression principle. Most of us like to take a nap, so we break it down to NAP because everybody can remember a nap. We love naps. But the non-aggression principle is real simple. It is something we all learned when we were kids. I am who I am, and I've got my things, and I can play with my things however I want to, and you are who you are, and you've got your things, and you can play with your things, however you want to. Just as long as I don't come and take your things, or you don't come and take my things, or I don't use my things to hurt you, or you don't use your things to hurt me, then we can get along, and society can be good. And unfortunately, we've gotten away from that rule a lot. A lot of people call it the golden rule, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. It's something that, is biblical it's biblical. That we should have this love for our neighbor, this common concern. Mm-hmm. And, Congressman Crawford has tried to say that, I have this anarchist mindset and it's just everybody for themselves. That's not what it is. It's saying I respect you enough to let you be whoever you want to be. Okay. And to love you for whoever you're going to be. And I just ask you to love me the same way, and we can work together to make sure that we can both be whoever we're going to be. And that's where the community is built, is just respecting that we are this diverse culture. I mean, we are such a diverse and beautiful culture. But our beauty comes in our diversity. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is in the book of Revelation, when you have this scene of worship in heaven. It says people from every tribe and every language and tongue and nation, and they're all there and they're all worshiping Jesus Christ together. I can't wait for that day because that's beautiful to me. The diversity in that picture is beautiful to me. And I think we can have it in America if we would just come together and realize that the diversity is what makes us so beautiful. And it's what makes everybody look at America and say, you know what, I want to get to America. I want to get there. And that needs to be the thing of beauty we show this world, is that no matter how diverse and different and spread out and crazy we are, we can come together. When we come together, it is a beautiful and powerful thing, and it is something that the country needs to see.
Yes. And, some people are so quick to holler or scream, my First Amendment right. Well, then, as you mentioned, different people have a right to express themselves. Just say with Colin. That was a big thing in the news for a while. And I'm not going to get too deep into it. I'm not a journalist by any means. I don't need any backlash today. But as you said, he had a right to do what he wanted to do. Other people have the right to express themselves in whatever way they want. The thing is, okay, let's start a conversation. Instead of being angry about how someone is expressing themselves, use that as a conversation starter.
Exactly.
And try to get to understand your neighbor, not your next door neighbor, but your neighbor, the person that you live with, interact with, work with, or live in a community with. Those are your neighbors. So, yes.
Well, and that ties into what was so sad about that. What Colin did, I mean, I have people in my family that have served. My brother's active Army right now. My cousin was Army, has been discharged. I've got father-in-law, grandfather, uncle. I've had people in service. But the way I look at what happened with that is he is trying to highlight something. But rather than me get mad at him, I'll never understand why he did it. You know, we've become a culture where we're mean, we're quick to get mad, we're quick to, put up a front and be upset that somebody would dare do something that we disagree with. But why don't we just go and calmly say, hey, why are you doing that? Okay. That's where community gets built. That's where we come together, and this, beautiful thing America is the beautiful thing we are, is when we come together and we ask those questions. Why are you doing that? Okay. I don't understand it from my perspective, so explain to me why. Explain to me why it's important to you to do that like you're doing that. And let's have that understanding and try to understand one another as people.
Okay. And this is what I would like to see whoever's in Congress representing whatever parts of Arkansas. Get to know who you're running for, get to know the people, get to know their issues, their concerns. Have those conversations, have that open dialogue about what their needs are, what they're concerned with, what affects their families. I know we spoke about a specific issue, but this kind of covers all issues. And since you will be representing District 1, there's so many issues that district faces. And it's time to have a dialogue about, okay, what are your issues? How can I help? Tell me what you need, And it starts with the local government. I tell that to anyone when it comes to Jonesboro, when we're interviewing the different candidates for county, city positions. Get to know who is representing you. Let them know what you need. That's the only way things can get resolved.
But it also falls on the people that are going to represent. We need to get out and find out what people say. Everybody's got those little step counters these days. Okay. And I've made a joke in my campaign. I'm like, well, I've done hundreds of thousands of steps because I've driven all over this district. Okay. And I've gone to people's homes and I knock on their doors, and that's always the first question I ask after I introduce myself. I say, well, what's a big issue for you right now? Okay. When you go to the polls, what are you thinking about when you go vote? Because I want to know what they're thinking about, because I can't represent the people if I don't know if I don't know what's bothering them. And I've heard a variety of answers in this district because it is a very diverse, huge district. I mean, when you've got, Delta towns, and you've got big cities like Jonesboro, and you've got, your northern part, where it's real rural, and there's a lot of retired, people on Social Security and things of that up there. You have a very diverse group of people in this district, and I've found very interesting talking to people and finding out, where they stand. It's easy for me to go find libertarians and say, hey, let's talk about what you like, but where do I grow? Okay. I don't grow like that, and the district isn't served like that, and I don't think I can adequately serve people if I don't go ask them what's bothering them. And that's what I'm trying to do with my campaign.
Alrighty. And so in the last few moments, we have like 3.5 minutes left in this segment. Again, we're talking with Mr. Mark West. He's a libertarian candidate running for U.S. Congress, House of Representatives, Arkansas, District 1, Arkansas. Okay. And the phone lines are 870-277-1080. If you have any questions or comments, please give us a call or leave a comment on Facebook. We are live. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. I'm still kind of in line with what we're talking about. Right now, the government is facing a huge debt issue. We're in debt up to our eyeballs, and then
past them.
So, what are your thoughts or ideas on how to help possibly fix or get the ball rolling to fix the debt issue?
Well, the first thing we have to do is realize that our debt is the problem it is, and part of that is educating the people in our district of how serious the problem is. Our debt right now is more than our national GDP, which means if we sold off the entire country, we would still have debt. Wow. So, until we come to grips with that fact, how many of us in our personal lives have so much debt that if we sold everything we had, we wouldn't be able to pay it off? Yes. That's where we are right now as a government. So that means we've come to a time where we have to start making very tough decisions, very hard choices with what we're doing as a government, what our spending priorities are, what our budget priorities are. It doesn't help that we have a report this year that the Pentagon lost $6.5 trillion that they can't find. It's like, how do you lose $6.5 trillion? I don't even lose $6.5. How do you lose $6.5 trillion? So we've got to go through this process of looking at what we're doing as a government. What programs do we have that are duplicatory? And what I mean by that, or duplicative. If you look on the state level, if you have state governments doing certain things, why are we paying to do them again in the federal government? You wind up with these layers and layers and layers, and all it does is create more bureaucracy, more bureaucrats, more money that doesn't have to be spent. Then you look at things like the way we're doing criminal justice right now. We're spending hundreds of billions of dollars right now fighting, a drug war right now that really you can't shoot the drugs out of somebody. You've got to get them into treatment. And so if we could shift that focus and demilitarize, our police forces and, all the money that would be saved out of that fight, if we would just turn to a treatment trajectory instead of this criminal trajectory with the drug war. If we would, as far as our international wars, we have gotten where we're intervening just about everywhere in the world. We have 900 plus bases, and everywhere a country has a problem, we think we need to go fund it, or we need to send bullets and bombs to these places. And Congressman Crawford, in our debate, he said, the world's on fire and we're trying to be liberators of the world. Well, last time I checked, you don't put a fire out with bullets and bombs. No. And so we need a different strategy. And right now that 21% of the budget is defense spending, which is between protecting our shores and doing all the other stuff we're doing around the world. So
I'm sorry. The time came up on me very fast. All right, we're going to continue this conversation in a few moments. You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Today, I'm sharing some questions that Robin Young, a certified financial planner and president of Women Behaving Wealthy, says every woman should ask about their money. First, what's in your wallet? Young urges women to count the number of credit cards they carry. If it's more than one, there's a strong likelihood that you're overspending and going deeper into debt to do it. You should never carry with you more than one credit card, and you should do most of your day-to-day spending with cash or a debit card. Next question, how is your cash organized? If the money in your purse is just randomly arranged, instead of being organized in order of denomination, it's a sign that you're not organized and aware of your money. Young says that you need to take steps to boost your money awareness and focus on organizing your finances. To learn more from Young, visit her website, womenbehavingwealthy.com. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
The court-appointed Special Advocate Program of the 2nd Judicial District presents Run Crazy for CASA 5K Yearly Race Fundraiser, Saturday, November 5th at the ASU Pavilion. Start time is 8 o'clock a.m. Registration for runners and walkers is ongoing, and Halloween costumes are encouraged to be worn but not required. Prizes will be awarded to the top 3 male and female winners in each age group, as well as the top 5 overall male and female finishers. There will also be t-shirts, pizza, massages, and a costume contest. Proceeds from the 5K will be used to help CASA's mission of helping children taken into foster care due to abuse and neglect. Registration for the 5K and other information is available at neacasa.org. CASA is a nonprofit organization.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Race Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
Did you know that KLEK 102.5 FM is a nonprofit organization? Did you know that you can donate to KLEK 102.5 FM and your donation is tax deductible? Donations to nonprofit organizations such as KLEK can reduce the amount of taxes you may owe the IRS or increase the amount of any potential tax refund. uw.klekfm.org. We at KLEK 102.5 FM are blessed and grateful for your support.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
All right, welcome back to Community Conversations. That last segment almost caught us and we ran out of time. So I want to give Mr. Marquez the opportunity to finish his comment if he would like to, and then just express any other topics that he would, that we didn't get into, any of the issues that he's passionate about, and then why, people should vote for him. And I just want to give him the floor right now.
All right. Well, as I was saying on the budget, we have so many expenditures that don't have to happen, especially the international wars. So much that we're doing internationally doesn't have to be done by us ourselves. There's a whole international community we need to get involved, and that will also help cut the budget. And then dealing with a lot of the pork barrel type projects that come through Congress, a lot of the bills come through with earmarks, or I think we should have legislation that says one bill, one topic, and that should be the way Congress works, instead of these bills that are thousands of pages long that the average citizen can't read. And then I also want to see term limits. I think members of Congress should have term limits, because what happens, the longer they're in Congress, the more money they raise, the more influence they have with this, the special interests and the corporations, and we need to get that influence out of Washington. And the one way to get it out is to show them, hey, you're only going to have at most an 8 to 12 year return on your investment. So let's try to shield that some, shield Congress from that influence. For me, as I've talked about here, the big deal for me is making a freer society for American citizens. As we talked about at the beginning, we need to get government out of our lives where it intrudes. Government does serve some good purposes, but there's a lot of areas that it oversteps and it gets into too much, and it causes problems. I always ask the question, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to imagine the first thing you think about when you get out of bed. Most of us, we get out of bed, the first thing we're not thinking about is, well, did I pay enough taxes yesterday? We're not saying, well, I wonder if there's some other way I can get the government in my business.
Yes.
None of us wake up saying that. Most of us wake up, as I've talked about, wake up worried if we're still going to have a job when we get to work, or if we're going to be able to pay the bills this week, taking care of the kids, keeping food on the table. Those are the things we're worried about. Kitchen table issues, that's what we're worried about. The economy, making sure the economy is working. And I believe if people send me to Congress, I'm going to try to make things better for the middle class, because I'm in the middle class. I'm working. I'm one of those struggling. I work paycheck to paycheck, week to week. I know what it's like to fight to pay the bills, and unfortunately, too many members of Congress get away from that perspective that I've got bills to pay this Friday. I hope my direct deposit don't get messed up from work, because if it does, we'll have some overdrafts coming through. Those are the issues we're all facing, and we need the government first to get out of the way where it shouldn't be, where it's strangling small businesses, where it's killing job creation in the middle class, where it's making it harder for them to hire or pay more. We need to get the government out of that aspect of the economy so that it can grow and so that it can flourish, so the free market can do what it does. The free market will grow if we allow it, and you can do that and have the protections in there that you need to make sure that you don't have abusive workplaces or you don't have discriminatory workplaces. You can have those regulatory type things without having the government so involved that every day you go to work in your business and you think, well, what government stuff do I need to get out of the way before I can get to doing the business I'm trying to do business for? And that will help. It'll get people better paying jobs, and when people have more jobs, one of the things they've shown is the more money people make, the more leisure time they have, and the more leisure time they have, the more opportunity they have to get involved. Because one of the big problems we have in America today is involvement. I think they say about 40% of registered voters vote consistently. I mean, our district is it's about 750,000 people, and in the last presidential election, which are the high turnout elections, the last one of those, you had like 250 some odd thousand people was all that voted out of 750,000 people. So there's a lot of people that need to get involved, and I think that people will get involved when we restore their trust in the process. And I think getting the special interest out of Washington, getting, as I said, get government out of business, get business out of government. You deal with those two things, you begin restoring that trust with the people that they need. They need to know that Congress represents them and not those special interests. And that's why I want people to support me. Again, as I've said, I'm not taking special interest money. I'm not taking corporate donations, just taking average guy. But go to my website, www.markwestforcongress.com. I'd love to have your vote on November the 8th.
All right. So, again, that is www.markwestforcongress.com. And I'm looking at the website. It's very informative. You can read the information there for yourself so that you can make an informed decision when you go to the polls. I can't tell you who to vote for, but I do encourage you to vote. As we all know, early voting in Arkansas, well, I know in Jonesboro now. I don't know about the rest of the counties, but check, I'm sure there's a website that lets you know.
You can check with your county clerks or the Arkansas Secretary of State.
Okay. Go to the Secretary of State's website to see where early voting is in your area. Go and check out these different candidates. See what they stand for. See if it measures up with what you stand for, and make an informed decision at the polls. We need everyone to get out and vote. So, you've been listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We still have like a minute left, so if you have any questions or comments, please call in from Mr. Mark. Mr. Mark, are there any other ways people can reach you?
They can reach me through my my Twitter, which is Mark West, the number 4, and then the letter D, and then 1. Okay. So you can reach me through Twitter. Campaign email is mwest@markwestforcongress. Okay. They can also reach me on my cell phone, 870-613-1496. I'd love to hear from the people in this district and know what's going on, what it is that's bothering them, what they're thinking about when they get ready to vote.
Alrighty. So again, just have to give this disclaimer that the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council and KLEK does not support or endorse any candidate. No compensation was given for this interview. This interview was provided strictly for educational and informational purposes. So, we appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you sharing your views, and I really hope that someone has gotten something out of this interview. So, and tomorrow we'll have another candidate for House of Representative, Mr. Frank Gilbert. So I hope you tune in to see what he has to say, and then you can go to the polls on November 8th and make your decision. This is Community Conversations. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a very blessed day.